The jungle was alive with strange sounds. Insects buzzed in the heavy air. Leaves rustled with every small movement. And somewhere far away, a deep roar echoed through the trees. Carter wiped the sweat from his forehead and pushed through the thick vines. He had been walking for hours, scanning the forest floor for rare plants and minerals to record for the colony's survey mission. It was supposed to be a normal day, just another trip into the alien wilderness. But today, something felt different. A soft sound caught his ear. It wasn't an animal call. It was too gentle, too human. Carter froze and listened. There it was again, a faint rustle, followed by a quick shuffle of bare feet on damp soil. He turned his head slowly and saw movement between the twisted roots of an enormous tree. At first he thought it was some small animal darting away, but then a face appeared. Two bright eyes stared at him from the shadows. They were large, almost glowing, with an amber hue he had never seen before. The eyes belonged to a young alien girl, no older than her late teens in human years. Her skin was smooth and lightly marked with pale tribal lines. But what shocked him most was that she wore no clothing at all, only thin layers of mud, leaves, and bits of woven grass clung to her body. As if to hide herself from view, she didn't move. She didn't blink. She just watched him like a wild animal, deciding whether he was a threat. Carter slowly raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girl tilted. Her head, her messy dark hair falling across her face. Her lips parted slightly, and she spoke in a voice that was rough, as if unused to speaking. "You not hurt me?" she asked, the words broken but understandable. Carter felt his heart pound. She knew some human language. That meant she had heard it before, learned it from someone. But what was she doing here, living alone in the middle of this dangerous jungle? Before he could answer, a low growl rumbled from somewhere behind her. Carter's eyes darted past her to the shadows and his stomach tightened. A massive creature stepped into view, its scales reflecting the dim green light filtering through the canopy. It had 6 thick legs, each ending in claws the size of Carter's hand, and its mouth was filled with rows of sharp teeth dripping with saliva. The girl didn't run. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she turned her head slightly toward Carter and hissed, "No shoot." "What?" Carter whispered back, already reaching for his energy sidearm. "No shoot," she repeated firmly. The blood scent. More come. Her meaning clicked instantly. If they killed this predator here, its blood would attract others. The creature lowered itself, ready to pounce. Carter's mind raced. In this dense jungle, with no clear path to run, they had seconds at most. But before he could make a move, the girl suddenly sprang into action. She waved her hand sharply, signaling him to follow, and dashed off between 2 thick tree trunks. Her bare feet moved silently over roots and wet leaves, as if she had spent her whole life running through this terrain. Carter hesitated for only a second before chasing after her. He ducked under low branches, leaped over fallen logs, and tried to keep up with her fast, graceful movements. Behind them, the predator roared and crashed through the undergrowth, the sound of its claws ripping into the ground sending chills through his body. The girl didn't look back once. She ran with confidence, taking narrow paths Carter never would have noticed. They slid down a mossy slope, crossed a shallow stream, and climbed over a wall of tangled roots. Finally, they burst into a small clearing surrounded by thick ferns. The girl knelt and pushed aside a curtain of vines, revealing the entrance to a cave barely big enough for Carter to crawl through. Her eyes sharp. Carter didn't argue. Ducked inside, feeling the cool air of the cave wrap around him. The girl slipped in after him and pulled the vines back into place. They sat in the dark, listening to the distant roars fade away. When the danger had passed, Carter looked around. The cave was small, but surprisingly well kept. Piles of leaves formed a bed in one corner, and in another, a neat stack of fruits and nuts sat inwoven. Baskets made from jungle fibers. This wasn't just a hiding place, it was her home. "You live here?" he asked quietly. She nodded, pulling a strand of hair from her face. "Long time?" Carter frowned. "Alone?" "Yes." Her voice was flat, but her eyes flickered with something pain maybe, or memory. He noticed thin scars along her arms and legs, the kind that came from fights. With animals, or rough survival? This girl had been out here for years, maybe since childhood. No clothes, no tools, no protection, just her instincts and the jungle. You? Why help me? She asked suddenly, her amber eyes locking onto his. Carter didn't answer right away. He didn't even know himself. Something about the way she had looked at him back there half wild, half desperate had made him follow her without thinking. Before he could speak, a strange sound echoed outside the cave. It wasn't the roar of the predator, it was higher, sharper whistle. The girl's face tensed instantly. Hunters, she whispered. Carter felt his grip tighten around his sidearm. Whoever these hunters were, he had a feeling they weren't here to rescue her, and now they knew exactly where to find her. The jungle outside the cave was too quiet. Carter knew enough about dangerous worlds to understand that silence in a wild place usually meant one thing: something was out there, and everything else was smart enough to hide. The girl crouched low beside him, her bare shoulders tense, her amber eyes fixed on the vine-covered entrance. She didn't breathe loudly, didn't fidget. Every part of her body was frozen in perfect stillness, like prey trying not to be found. Then the sound came again, a whistle, not human, not animal, something in between, high, sharp, and stretched out like it was calling to others. Hunters, Carter whispered. She nodded once. Not good people. Carter's instincts screamed at him to move. But before they could even think of a plan, the air inside the cave shifted. The faint smell of wet earth mixed with something else. Something foul and metallic, like rotting meat. A shadow passed over the small opening, and then slow, deliberate movement. Claws scraping rock. Heavy breathing. The predator had followed them after all. Carter's hand went to his sidearm. The girl caught his wrist instantly, shaking her head. No, shoot, she mouthed again, but this time her eyes weren't calm, they were wide. The creature's head appeared through the vines, its scales rippling in the dim light. Its black tongue flickered out, tasting the air. Its eyes, narrow and yellow, locked onto the girl first, then flicked to Carter. For a moment, the only sound was the low rumble of its throat. Then, without warning, it lunged forward. Carter reacted on instinct, grabbing the girl and rolling deeper into the cave. The creature's claws scraped the stone where they had been seconds ago, sending sparks into the dark. Its roar shook the walls and dust rained from the ceiling. The girl pulled free and darted toward a narrow crack in the far wall. Here, she hissed, motioning him to follow. Carter didn't think. He scrambled after her. The crack was barely wide enough for them to squeeze through. Behind them, the predator slammed into the rock, too big to fit, but it didn't leave. It scraped and snapped at the opening, determined to reach them. The passage curved sharply downward, and soon they were crawling on their bellies, sliding through cold, damp stone until they emerged into another chamber. Here, faint light filtered down from above a hole in the roof of the cave. And in that light, Carter saw something unexpected. Bones, dozens of them, scattered in the dirt. Some were small, like birds or monkeys. Others, much larger. This is not good, Carter muttered. The girl was already moving toward a tunnel. On the far side. This way, faster. They ran, their footsteps echoing in the tight space. Behind them, the predator's roars faded. But Carter didn't relax, not when the girl kept glancing over her shoulder like she was expecting something. Worse, finally they burst out into the open air, into a part of the jungle unlike the rest. The ground here was soft and black, and the trees twisted into unnatural shapes. Strange glowing insects swirled through the air, and the air felt heavy, almost hard to breathe. Carter stopped to catch his breath. Where are we? The voice was barely above a whisper. Hunter's ground. Cold shiver ran down his spine. Somewhere in the distance. The whistling started again, this time from more than one direction. Carter followed her through the twisted jungle paths. The ground soft under his boots, every step muffled by the thick black soil. The strange whistles were growing faint, but he didn't relax, not when her head kept turning at every sound. not when her bare feet moved faster than before. They reached a cluster of massive roots rising like walls around a hollow space. She slipped inside without a word. Carter followed, ducking under low branches until the roots formed a hidden shelter. Inside it felt different. Safe, almost. There were piles of dried leaves for bedding, smooth stones arranged in a circle, where a small fire had once been, and woven baskets filled with fruits and nuts. But there were also things that didn't belong: old pieces of fabric, broken beads, a small animal skull with symbols carved into it. Carter crouched down. "This is your home?" She nodded, her amber eyes on the ground. "Only place. No one find me." He studied her face. She wasn't just hiding from predators, she was hiding from people. "You said the hunters aren't good people. Who are they?" Carter asked. She was quiet for a long time, chewing her lip as if the words were hard to say. Finally, she spoke. "My clan." That answer hit harder than he expected. "They left me," she continued. "Say I bring bad luck." She held her hand low to show her height back then. "They take food from me. They burn my things. Then send me into forest." Carter clenched his jaw. "You were just a kid?" She nodded. "No one come back. I not die. Die. I learn." Her voice was steady, but her eyes shone with something unspoken. Years of loneliness. Nights with nothing but the sounds of the jungle to keep her company. He noticed the scars against thin lines along her arms. Deep mark on her hip. Another. Across her shoulder? Survival hadn't been kind to her. "Why no clothes?" Carter asked gently. She gave a small shrug. "Clothes catch on branches. Make noise, slow me. Skin better." She hesitated, then added, "Also, they take them, so I never ask again." Her words made his chest tighten. She wasn't just avoiding clothes, she had learned not to expect kindness from anyone, before Carter could say more. A low rumble of thunder rolled through the sky. The air grew heavy, and the jungle darkened. The girl stiffened and moved too. A small gap between the roots, to look outside. "Rain come?" she murmured. Carter followed her gaze and froze. Between the trees, shapes were moving. Not the hunters this time. These figures were larger, slower, and carried glowing staffs. Their faces were hidden under bone masks. Symbols painted in black ink covered their arms. "They not clan," she whispered. "Worse, Carter's." Hand went to his weapon. "Who are they?" She glanced at him, her voice trembling for the first time. "They take people. No, come back." The masked figures were getting closer, their staffs casting pale light over the wet leaves. One of them turned its head toward the root shelter. Carter's heartbeat quickened. Whatever truth she had told him about her past, he realized it wasn't the whole truth. There was something more, something she still hadn't said, and now it might be too late to ask. Asterisk, the rain came suddenly, heavy and warm, turning the jungle floor into mud within seconds. The sound of it masked footsteps, but Carter could still see the figures through the curtain of falling water. 3 masked hunters moving like shadows between the trees. The girl pressed her back against the root wall, her bare skin glistening with raindrops. "Don't move," she whispered. Carter stayed low, his pulse racing. The hunters' bone masks glowed faintly in the dim light, their empty eye holes scanning the jungle. Each one carried a long spear with sharp black tips that seemed to absorb the light around them. They stopped, just a few meters away. One knelt in the mud and touched the ground with gloved fingers. The other 2 leaned in. They tracked, the girl murmured. "They smell my trail." Before Carter could ask how, one of the hunters reached into a pouch and released something small into the air. At first, Carter thought it was a bug, and he realized it was mechanical, a tiny drone shaped like an insect, its wings humming. Softly, it zipped through the rain and darted toward the root shelter. The girl's eyes widened. She grabbed Carter's wrist and yanked him toward a narrow tunnel behind the shelter. "They'll find us," she hissed. They ran through the dark passage, the mud sucking at Carter's boots, the roots scraping his shoulders. Drone buzzed closer, its faint red eye blinking. Carter turned, drew his sidearm, and fired. The drone exploded in a flash of sparks, but the shot echoed like thunder in the narrow space. The girl froze. Now they know. Seconds later, a spear shot through the roots beside Carter's head, missing him by inches. A masked hunter crawled into the tunnel, his spear tip glowing faintly as if sensing heat. Carter shoved the girl forward. "I'll cover you." They scrambled into an open ravine slick with rainwater. The jungle here was broken by steep cliffs and far below. A swollen river roared through jagged rocks. The girl looked around frantically. No way down. Carter scanned the edge, searching for a path, but the hunters were already emerging. From the tunnel, one threw a net weighted with black stones. It landed just short of them, splashing into the mud. The girl grabbed Carter's arm. "We jump." Carter stared at the raging water below. "That's insane. They won't follow in water," she said, her voice sharp. Too many things. She didn't explain what things meant, and Carter didn't have time to ask. The nearest hunter raised his spear, and Carter knew they had only one choice. They jumped cold. Violent water swallowed them instantly. Carter fought to keep hold of her as the current dragged them downstream. Shapes moved beneath them, dark, fast, and much too large to be fish. One brushed against Carter's leg. A flash of pale teeth broke the surface beside him. The girl's voice cut through the roar of the river. "Don't stop swimming!" The river finally spat them out onto a muddy bank far from the hunters. Carter pulled himself up first, then helped the girl onto her knees. She was breathing hard, her long hair plastered to her face, her thin body trembling from more than just the cold. "Safe," she whispered, though her eyes still scanned the tree line like she expected another spear to fly at them. Carter tapped his wrist. "Come. Shuttle lock on my signal." Minutes later, the hum of an approaching craft broke. Through the rain, the girl's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing at the sight of the sleek silver shape descending between the trees. She took a step back. "What is that, my ride?" Carter said. "It'll take us somewhere safe." But when the shuttle landed and the hatch opened, she didn't move. Her gaze darted between Carter and the ship, her breathing growing faster. "Not go inside," she said firmly. "Small space. Not trust." "It's the only way out of here," Carter told her. She shook her head, gripping his arm like a wild animal refusing a cage. The hunters were still out there. Carter had no time for debate. With a calm voice, he said, "I'll be right next to you. Won't let anyone touch you." After a long, tense pause, she stepped inside. The moment the hatch closed, she flinched, her hands pressing against the smooth metal walls as if they might close in on her. The shuttle lifted off. Through the window, the endless green jungle shrank. Away, replaced by rolling plains and the distant glow of human-built towers. When they landed in the human colony, the difference hit her hard. The jungle had been loud, but this place was louder. Machines buzzing, voices shouting, metal clanging. The air smelled strange, full of fuel and cooked food. People stared as Carter led her through the streets. She was barefoot, wrapped only in his oversized jacket, her hair wild, her amber eyes darting everywhere. She clung to his arm so tightly his fingers went numb. A child ran up to her with a bright smile, offering a candy stick. The girl's reaction was instant. She slapped the candy away and stepped back, her eyes sharp and suspicious. The child froze, confused, before his mother pulled him away. Carter leaned close. "He wasn't trying to hurt you," she frowned. "People give, they want something back. Always." Her words made Carter's chest tighten. She had lived so long in fear that even kindness felt like a trap. They passed a group of merchants selling food and clothing. She stopped, staring at the rows of colorful fabrics swaying in the wind. "You've never had your own clothes, have you?" Carter asked. She didn't answer, but the way she touched the fabric, hesitant, almost reverent, was enough. That's when he made up his mind. "Come on, we're going shopping." Her head snapped toward him. "Shop? What is shop?" He smiled faintly.
Ow.
"You'll see." The market doors slid open with a soft hiss, and the girl froze on the threshold. Bright lights poured over her, far harsher than the soft glow of jungle fireflies. Dozens of people moved inside, browsing, talking, laughing. Strange music played from hidden speakers. She didn't move. Carter stepped inside first. Come on. Nothing here can hurt you. She followed slowly, her bare feet silent on the smooth floor. Her eyes darted everywhere, shelves stacked with colorful packages, rows of shiny objects, the smell of cooked food drifting from one corner. What is this place? She whispered. It's called a store. People come here to trade for what they need. Her brows furrowed. Trade? For shells? Stones? Carter chuckled. Not exactly. We use money here. She clearly didn't understand, but her attention shifted to a rack of clothes nearby. Ah! She reached out and touched a soft, green scarf, her fingers curling into the fabric. Then, without hesitation, she began pulling clothes off the rack, examining each one with quick, sharp movements like she was searching for hidden traps. A store clerk approached, smiling. Need any help? The girl's eyes narrowed instantly. Why help me? She asked in a cold tone. The clerk blinked, unsure how to answer. Carter stepped in quickly. We're just looking, thanks. They moved on to the changing area. Carter pointed to the stalls. You try clothes in there. It's private. She tilted her head. Why hide? So no one sees you while you're changing. But instead of going inside, she began slipping off his oversized jacket right in the middle of the store. A few shoppers gasped. Whoa, no, not here. Carter grabbed the jacket and steered her toward the stall. This way. She went inside reluctantly. Minutes later, she stepped out wearing a loose white shirt and soft pants. She frowned. Pulling at the fabric feels strange, like vines, but softer. Do you like it? Carter asked. She hesitated, then gave a tiny nod. Warm, safe. In the shoe section, she refused every pair he offered. These make me slow. Run, Carter sighed. You won't have to run here. Her amber eyes met his. You always run. From something. From someone. Before he could answer, a small figure appeared at the far end of the aisle. A child. No too small. Wrong movement. Carter's stomach tightened. It was one of the jungle. Hunters, without his mask. The man smiled faintly, eyes locked on the girl. Carter stepped between them instantly. Stay close to me, he said. She didn't need to be told twice. They left the store under the pale glow of the colony's evening lights. The girl now wore the loose white shirt, soft pants, and a pair of sandals Carter had convinced her to try. A thin scarf was wrapped gently around her neck, the gift from the kind shopkeeper earlier. She kept touching it, as if afraid it might vanish. For the first time since he'd met her. She walked without glancing over her shoulder every few seconds. Her steps were still cautious, but lighter. Feels strange, she murmured. What does? Carter asked. She looked up at the glowing signs, the quiet hum of passing vehicles, the people walking without fear. Safe. I never feel safe before, Carter. Smiled faintly. Get used to it. You're not in the jungle anymore. They turned down a quieter street toward his housing block. The girl slowed, watching a group of children playing a game with a ball. Their laughter echoed against the walls. One of the kids waved at her. She didn't wave back, but her eyes lingered on them longer than Carter expected. When they reached his door, she stopped. Why you do this? Do what? Help me. Give me. These, she touched her scarf, then the shirt. People only. Take from me, you give. Carter shrugged. 'Cause you deserve a chance, and because you're stronger than you think. Her amber eyes softened. Then I stay with you. He nodded. You can stay as long as you want. She stepped inside his apartment for the first time. The warmth of the air recycler wrapped around them. She wandered slowly, touching the smooth walls, peering at small things, books, cups, a framed photo. Everything was new to her. Carter watched her with a mix of relief and worry. He wanted to believe she was safe now, but then a faint shadow moved outside the window. Carter's eyes narrowed. Across the street, leaning casually against a lamppost, stood the same unmasked jungle hunter from the store. His expression was calm, almost amused. When he noticed Carter watching, he raised one finger to his lips in a silent shush, then vanished into the crowd. Carter's hand instinctively went to the sidearm at his hip. The girl noticed his change in posture. "Immediately, hunters?" she asked quietly. He looked at her. "Maybe, but as long as you're with me, they won't take you." She held his gaze for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Then I'm not afraid anymore." Still, Carter knew one thing. The jungle might be far away now, but its shadows had followed them into the city.